Meeting of the Minnehaha County Planning Commission, and I will begin with a few introductory comments. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones have been silenced. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on the www.minnehahacounty.gov site for viewing by the general public. Any final action taken on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting, unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, October 30th at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission for a hearing on Tuesday, November 21st at or after 9 a.m. The affected parties will be notified of the meeting date, and meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. Action taken on the zoning text amendment during the public hearing tonight is a recommendation that will be forwarded to the County Commission for another public hearing on Tuesday, November 28th at or after 9 a.m. And meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. First on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all of the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from the September 25th, 2023 meeting are included in the consent agenda. Next, I'll read each item on the consent agenda, and if you have any issues or comments that you would like to be heard, please address the item by raising your hand, and the item will be moved to the regular agenda and allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Any items remaining on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commission with the conditions recommended by staff. Item number 1 is the approval of the minutes of the September 25th, 2023 meeting. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 23-53 to exceed 3,600 square feet of accessory building area, requesting 9,632 square feet. That's on the property legally described as Tract 13th, Indian Hills Estates, the north half, Section 8, Township 101 North, Range 48 West. That is in Split Rock Township. Petitioner and property owner is Don Bonenberger. Location is 2216 North Indian Hills Trail. Does anyone from the audience or the Planning Commission wish to be heard on this item? Item number 3 is conditional use permit 23-54 to exceed 2,400 square feet of accessory building area, requesting 3,200 square feet on the property legally described as Tract 1, Albert's Addition, the north half, the southeast quarter, Section 26, Township 101 North, Range 51 West, and that is in Wall Lake Township. The property owner and the petitioner is Christopher Iwan. The location is 26675 Valdez Road. Does anyone from the audience or the Planning Commission wish to be heard on this item? Item number 4 is conditional use permit 23-55 to allow a motor vehicle sales and repair shop on the property legally described as Tract 1A, Preheim's Addition, the north half, Section 27, Township 101 North, Range 48 West. That is in Split Rock Township. Petitioner is Auto Body Specialists. The property owner is MJ Holdings 23 LLP. The location is 48132 Highway 42. Does anyone from the commission or the audience wish to speak on this item?
Madam Chair, could item number 4 be moved to the regular agenda, please?
Okay. So on the consent agenda, we have item number 1, number 2, and number 3.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and seconded to approve the first 3 items on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. If your item has been approved, you're free to go. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4. Kevin?
All right, good evening. I am Kevin Hookman from the County Planning Department. Item number 4 is a conditional use permit to allow motor vehicle sales, repair, and on the property that's described. This item was brought to the attention through a complaint to staff about junk vehicles being parked in the front of the property, and that the business was being run without the proper conditional use permit. I contacted the property owner and the tenant of the property, and they both responded to apply for this conditional use permit, and that's why we're here today. The item is located between Iverson Crossing and Rowena on the east side, east of Sioux Falls, in the Red Rock Corridor Overlay District. The property is already developed, and there's no need for any additional buffer yards since the adjacent property is ag zoned. The applicant does have to submit an additional site plan for the Red Rock Corridor Overlay Review. And I guess since I think that there's going to be a few kind of potential for public comment behind me, it looks like, I'll try to run through this a little faster. Staff visited the site on October 11th and found approximately 20 vehicles on the south side of the property, and kind of the front here in this area. And they all appear to be in working order, and approximately another 12 vehicles on the west side, which would be along here. A few of which on the west side had missing parts and dismantled bumpers. The shop workers that were there when I visited notified that the property or the cars in the front are generally customer vehicles, and that the sale of vehicles are done mostly through online marketplaces and doesn't have necessarily a traditional sales lot for display of vehicles. I'll cut right down to the conditional permit criteria regarding nuisances, since this was a nuisance complaint. The property was brought to the attention from a complaint. Highway 42 does carry a significant amount of traffic along it on a daily basis. And unsightly vehicles is part of and junk is part of the reason why the Red Rock Corridor was built as an ordinance, to try to work ahead of these things to make these sorts of uses a cleaner space for the traveling public along the highway. Staff suggests that all vehicle fluid, such as oils and fuels and antifreeze, must be stored inside to prevent accidental spills, and that the unsightly vehicles with missing parts or partially dismantled or damaged be stored on the north side of the building or on the west side of the building. And I'll show you a map in a little bit that kind of demonstrates the two potential areas right here and here. There is a gravel area right here to park the vehicles there. The site already has existing screening. You can see trees on the south side. As part of the condition, staff also suggests that trees must be maintained in a live condition to maintain screening capabilities, or some other screen must be placed in it if the trees, say, die from some sort of a bug or something, that it can be either replaced by more trees or a screening fence of similar size. The staff is also including several conditions to prevent this property from becoming a salvage yard, because although car repair and sales is a use that is a desirable use and a common use in industrial zoned areas. Something like a salvage yard is not a desirable use in this area. And although parts are going to be taken off of vehicles and replaced, one of the conditions will be that no parts are being sold directly to customers off of these vehicles as in a salvageable state, like a salvage yard. Staff is recommending approval with 14 conditions, and I'll go through some of the photos. This is a site plan that shows just kind of general parking along the property. The easement for traffic to go through does move around the west side of the buildings, away from where this auto body shop is located. Here's some site photos from the day I visited, and you'll see that there are a lot of cars there. And that would be the west side of the building. Here would be the east side. This is the screen side with the gravel area. And you can see that there's lots of stuff in general, but from the road you cannot see this sort of stuff. So this would be in a good place. As part of the conditions, as I stated, the fluids and things like these barrels would have to be moved inside for storage keeping. Then this would be the north side near the storage units. A photo of the sign. And you can get an idea of the screening that is already present on the property from the trees. And then my last photo. So this would be the configuration that staff is suggesting for condition number, let's see here, 4 and 6 would be that the damaged vehicles be stored here and only functional vehicles be stored here. As we have done in a previous similar type of use, that we had a maximum number of damaged vehicles allowed on site at any one time. So staff is just suggesting that 20 vehicles could be able to fit in this area reasonably well. So staff suggests that these 20 be the maximum number of vehicles placed in the property at any one time. So with that, staff is recommending approval with the 14 conditions, and I'm ready for any questions.
Bonnie?
Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, Kevin, I know it's an established business already, but I had a neighbor, he was quite concerned about the future of what's going on out there. Should these have a right to farm attached to them?
Well, the right to farm notice is only required for residential uses. As the right to farm is for that the property owner here knows that the neighbor has dust and sprays and things like that. I guess it's possible we could require a right to farm notice on something like this, but that nobody is living there, I would be, I don't know if it'd be necessary.
Okay, just a question because the neighbor was, concerned about the future with businesses moving out along 42.
Sure,
And
sure.
so that was my biggest question. That's why I brought it up.
I have a question too.
Sure.
I went out there and looked at it too because it's kind of not too far from where I live. It was hard for me to decide which cars they were trying to sell versus which ones sometimes were kind of in bad condition outside of the ones behind the building themselves. Is he aware of all the conditions then? I mean, I see he's not here.
I guess I believe he's aware of the conditions. Okay. I wouldn't, I have not talked to him since I sent out the staff report. So I've talked with him prior to that, but not since.
Okay.
But he does receive the staff report like you, so, yeah.
Okay. Any other further questions for him? Okay, we don't have any opposition, and it doesn't look like the petitioner is here either. So, commissioners?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may, for what it's worth, I mean, it feels like staff's done a really nice job putting together some recommendations and some criteria to help maybe curb some of the concern that may exist out there. So I guess with that said, I guess I'd make a motion to approve.
I second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve conditional use permit 23-555. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we'll move on to the regular agenda.
All right.
Kevin, I guess it's up to you here too?
So item number 5 is a zoning text amendment number 2306 to amend the 1990 revised zoning ordinance for Minnehaha County to add intermodal shipping container regulations to the ordinance. So this has been in front of you guys a couple times as just general discussion. And then we worked together to create an ordinance, and now it's in front of you to be adopted. Shipping containers are increasingly being used for various purposes, including individual storage and building blocks for construction throughout the county. Increasing use of shipping containers is leading to increase in complaints by neighbors concerned of unsightliness of metal boxes. Regulations regarding the use of shipping containers do not exist in the ordinance, but the most recent building code does include a section to regulate the use of shipping containers like building material and for larger structures where they're part of component buildings. Since we went over some of this before, and you have the staff or the report in your hand, I also handed out a new white copy there with just a few changes, and I'll highlight those changes here in the screen. So with working staff and with the state's attorneys, these just are a few things that are minor tweaks to what was originally presented. Probably the biggest tweak would be the definition itself. To add the definition of intermodal shipping / storage container. Out of the concern that if we just add shipping container, a number of these units are built solely for the purpose of storage and not necessarily ever built to cross an ocean to carry goods. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't have some sort of loophole in the definition that would allow people to have just metal boxes that look a lot like shipping containers but are not built to that same standard. Then it kind of reduces the side because the previous definition said specifically steel, but some of the storage containers are made out of like aluminum, that sort of thing. So just made it to 6-sided metal unit, so it's in a metal unit, such as a general cargo container. And then it also has the specific exclusions of railroad cars, bus bodies, semi-trailers, and similar items designed to be permanently attached to a chassis. So semi-trailers and bus bodies are already a excluded thing out of the ordinance. They're not allowed to have those as a structure in the county. And this is just adding in there to reiterate that point that you cannot use a semi-trailer as a structure. Is there any questions about that particular? All right, moving on. This was just kind of a quick term change in the difference between principal use and principal building, changing out, turning principal use in the ordinance to principal building to make that change where some vacant lots do have a use. But this would make it so that you have to have a building on the property, a principal building, in order to have a shipping container. And that would be moving forward with that. It's a little clearer when it's not used. And then the next part, so section E7 was regarding existing shipping containers in the property. There is a problem with retroactively reaching backwards to existing items in the zoning ordinance. So this would probably have some legal issues if we were to adopt something to this effect. So that's why the staff is recommending to remove this section out of the ordinance.
Kevin, that was going to be one of my questions generally, was just, you said you were getting some complaints. Can you quantify that in any, like, of what is out there now? We're talking about
it'd be
a couple
hard-
situations or dozens?
Dozens.
Okay.
And whether or not it's complaints, is some complaints is probably a good term, but then dozens of situations where people are using these knowingly. The building inspector was once keeping a list, and I bet you there was 40 or more that he had a list of for a while, just kind of keeping track of how these were being used. But as far as complaints, there are a couple kind of key properties that have been complaining about them for years.
But to clarify then, what we're contemplating would only take hold prospectively if someone added an additional to a property or added in the first place, anything new going forward.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And then, as this isn't a change per se, but I would just like to highlight it as it was brought up in our kind of staff discussions, that the way the ordinance currently reads is that parcels 3 acres that are in the ag zoning district, 3 acres or less are limited to the 1 shipping container. Anything more than 3 acres would just have the general no limit, so to speak. You can have shipping containers as long as they're permitted. And just wanted to make sure everybody's aware that that's how it's written. If we wanted to do something additional to that or change that parcel size, we could always say add a provision in there, say instead of AB would be ABC, and have like a second tier, maybe a parcel larger than 3 acres and less than 10 could have 2 shipping containers. And I would just offer that up as more of a point of reference to make sure everybody's aware that that 3 acre limit in the ag district is there. This is not in your white paper, by the way.
Madam Chair, another question I'd have, Kevin, was just, it seems like we're structuring this within the context of accessory buildings. And to have, I think we've actually had this issue recently where someone wanted to create an accessory building without a primary use first, if you recall me. What if, though, someone, I think maybe in the original overview of this, we talked about what if I want to build a home, a primary principal use, kind of get some cool modern architecture with these, and that is the principal use. Do we contemplate that somewhere in here? Maybe I'm missing it.
It is not necessarily contemplated in this directly, but I would move that under the building code directly then.
Okay.
Because if they're building a house, they would then take that and the building code would allow it as a principal use, as a component structure. And then it would be a engineered structure again.
So it would, the scenario I'm throwing out would fall into our existing framework. We wouldn't need to pass anything to be able to at least regulate that in some way. But as an accessory building, we would need something like what we're contemplating here to be able to get it. Okay, thank you.
All right, so moving forward, if there's any if these amendments are okay, or if you're making other changes, the process would be to go forward and make a motion for the amendments, and then after the amendments are made, then making a motion for the final adoption of the ordinance after that. So We can continue discussion.
Madam Chair, another question I'd have, Kevin, is just have we, are there other jurisdictions that are dealing with this? I'm guessing it's a somewhat modern phenomenon. I don't know if it's becoming more or less popular after COVID, with all the supply chain issues of these types of structured shipping containers. I know that was a hot topic for a while there. I don't know if how the manufacture of shipping containers goes and what the market and demand is for that, but I can't imagine we're the only jurisdiction that's contemplating something like this. Have we modeled any of this off of anyone else?
There isn't anything locally, I'll say that. As far as modeling, yeah, we did look at a number of different jurisdictions across the country, several from like neighboring states like Nebraska, and looking further west even. There's a couple of ordinances looked at in like Montana and Idaho. I didn't even see a whole lot, honestly, from Minnesota and going eastward. I don't know why that was when I was searching.
Any further questions for him? Now we have to vote on the amendments first.
Yep.
Okay. I'll consider a motion.
I'll move approval of the staff proposed amendments.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and second to approve the amendments. Any further discussion?
For clarification, were you changing anything with this ag district?
Might have to walk me through that again, I guess. I thought we had one set of amendments that were fully baked.
So
we have a
these
distinction.
three are the fully baked ones where we looked through the definition, the principal use,
Yep,
and the removal of this.
yes.
And then there's this ag district, and maybe we can do that as a separate motion if we want to look through that.
Yeah.
Is that necessary? Do you
Well,
want?
This would, so currently, the only ag district that is 3 acres or less are gonna have a limit on the number of shipping containers for accessory use buildings. So if I have a 5 acre property, I can put a number, 10 units out there, just throwing a number, and use those all as accessory buildings.
So just to clarify, then this language you have here is not in our written.
This right here is where, is how it's written. If you wanted to make any changes, that's what I'm presenting. If you don't think that 3 acres is large enough, or if you want a higher number before a limit comes in, or if you want to tier it, kind of like our building size has, if you're 1 acre or less, it's 1,600, 2 to 3 acres, or 1 to 3 acres, it's 2,400, and 3 acres and up, it's 3,600. You could do something like that.
So so this is just a highlight, bringing this to our attention. This is
Yep,
not a
this is just bringing it to your
proposed or
attention.
endorsed change of any kind.
Yep.
So then I think my motion is still valid. Let's make all the other changes, and then I'm happy to have discussion about if we need to tier this at all. But let's just take action on the 3 actual amendments.
Yeah, the motion that's on the floor.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor then?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now, where are we?
Well, yeah, Madam Chair, I
Okay.
guess I would just say as to this,
So it could be, I'm sorry, I could have put an A here, but it doesn't fit on the screen very well. So if we had that original 1 or to 3 acres or less, and then you have add another tier in there
Yeah.
like this, you can tier it on up.
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead,
I don't
Mike.
know that it's necessary to add these tiers in here. I feel that kind of how we have it drafted currently is appropriate I guess, for what it's worth.
Yeah, and basically, I think I'm not making a judgment either way, but it's just saying if you're bigger than 3 acres, then am I right in saying that this kind of doesn't apply to you? You kind of can have as much as you want,
You
which,
just get building permits for them. Yep.
okay.
But then it goes back to, we have that other, well, not a hammer, but there are guidance to help steer what's appropriate. Again, you know, we don't have people putting 30 of them together to build a house. There's building code that would address that.
Okay, yeah. So then 3 acres.
Okay, so are we willing to leave it as it is, as he has it there?
I think so. I just have one clarifying question.
Okay.
So we have parcels 3 acres or less in size are limited to no more than 1. In practicality, when this would come before us, if somebody had 2, it would be within a conditional use permit setting, and if it was an appropriate use of 2, in theory, we could still approve that.
Yes.
But okay, just making sure we're not locking ourselves in some arbitrary way. I think I would stick with this language, as Mike's saying.
Because really, at the end of the day, it's just like with a few items we voted on earlier today, where exceeding accessory building size that's previously. So I mean, I think that really it's a good guideline again, and a good place to start. And if they want to do more and it's appropriate, great. So
Okay, so what do you need from us now?
Well, if you're ready to make a motion, you can make a motion then.
I guess I'd make a motion then to, is it approve or move forward with the
Approve.
regulation as with the updated amended version.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, any old business?
Yeah, just one item. I just wanted to make you aware that tomorrow we have a hearing. Well, we have the Mueller pallet rehash again, but then in addition to that, you may recall at our last meeting, we had the rezoning for that subdivision out by the landfill, also by Mueller Pallets on 41st Street. The applicant has withdrawn that request. So we will tomorrow just be acknowledging it'll just be withdrawn. So the young gentleman purchased a house in town, so he doesn't want to rezone it anymore.
Any new business? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone.